at 5:02. We'll start this evening with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, we're glad you're here tonight. We're gonna begin this meeting with our public forum, but just a couple of housekeeping items. Our meetings are governed by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act, a copy of which is located on the south wall. Thank you, Jody, for verifying publication and notification of our meeting this evening. If you'd like to speak with us during the public forum section of our meeting, we have gold papers at the back of the room here. Please bring them up here to Jody, and she'll be happy to get you in front of us. We generally ask us to stay within the 5-minute time frame. Personal and student topics should be held until after. Is anybody interested in speaking? I have a quiet group tonight. All these students are looking at me. Okay. All right. That brings us to our new business for this evening, which is first to discuss, consider, and take all necessary action to adopt the 25-26 school year budget. Dr. Claus.
So this is the same proposed budget that was provided to you on the September 8th during the budget hearing, and then again during the joint public hearing on September 17th. So you've seen this before. A reminder, this is our NDE budget, which is kind of like a worst case scenario budget. This is not exactly how we actually believe that our budget will finalize, but we want to make sure that we have the authority for expenditures as needed as well. With that, this budget reflects a total increase of just over 56%, but that's very misleading because of our special building fund, which increased 350%. Obviously, with the passage of the bond last March, there is $56 million that's put into this budget, the special building fund, which is a significant change or an increase of almost $44 million compared to previous years. So it kind of throws the whole large budget out of whack. Going into the general fund, which would be our operating expenses, that keeps the lights on, pays the staff, all that, we have an increase of 3.84%. The bond fund has an increase of 9.43%, and then our QC Puff fund has an increase of 8.93%. So all in, it looks a little bit awkward because of that one line item with the passage of the bond and how that's going to work. But each of those individual areas are a little more what we probably come to expect. So total budget request is $140,138,659. And then we'll talk more about the tax asking and the proposed levy in the next. I did just want to quick note our actual expenditures. We're planning to be somewhere around 2.7%, which would be one of the lowest actual expenditure increases in the district in at least 15 years if we were able to achieve that. So we do anticipate a lower expenditure year within the district as well.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions? I know we've reviewed this a couple of times, so we all had a chance to ask the administration if you have questions. I'm happy to take additional questions now. All right, I move to approve the 25-26 NDE budget as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Jody, call the roll, please.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes. Motion passes. The next item of new business this evening is for us to discuss, consider, and take action to approve the property tax request resolution and set the school system's final property tax request for the 25-26 school year. This was our statutory requirement. So.
This information was provided during the budget hearing on September 8th, again during the joint public hearing on September 17th. The final levy total proposal is $1.35.8, so that would be the same as 24-25, also the same as 23-24. Reminder, in 23-24, we did lower it almost 7 cents to get to this total amount, and so we have been able to stay stagnant there. There's a little bit of shifting within the funds, as you're going to see a decrease of 0.7 cents or 0.71% of the general fund, but then you'll see an increase of 0.7 cents in the special building fund. The bond fund will stay at 35.8 cents throughout the entire bond campaign. We kept telling our public that we plan to keep that at 35.8 cents, so we are keeping it at 35.8 cents. Again, the QC Puff fund will have zero levied into that. So all in, the Total levy would be $1.35.8. As far as tax asking within the resolution, the general fund would have $30,188,107. The bond fund have $11,074,216, and then the special building fund would be $774,054. The additional 0.7 cents from the special building fund, that'll help us pay down some of our bond, our building project. And so throughout the course of the bond campaign, we said we were going to use $12.5 million of district funds, $10 million that we have on hand, and then some more over the course of time. So we'll use that to help pay down some of the project, as we told everybody we would. In addition, it allows us to create some reserves in the future to help offset some costs later on. So something that we know that we need to do as well. All in, this is the budget as we set it this year. I would call it, a traditional operating environment. Like in a perfect world, you'd like to plan your expenses to be high and your revenues to be low. That way you always, meet the mark. I wouldn't say that the budget this year is that way. I'd say it's pretty accurate. I don't know that it's quite as thin as last year's, where we were just trying to figure out a way to make it work, but it definitely would be more accurate in the assumptions that's being made. And so with that, we would anticipate hopefully a surplus at the end of the year, about 0.5% of our total budget, or about $300,000. If we get to there and revenues come in lower, expenses come in higher, we'll be able to make it work. Otherwise, that would go into our final reserves. So we got about 0.5% of wiggle room in there.
Thank you. Again, I know we've talked about this several times. I did attend the joint public hearing to represent the board, and Dr. Claus did a great job, so thank you for that. Any other questions with respect to the property tax request resolution? All right, I move to adopt the property tax request resolution for Bennington Public Schools for the 25-26 school year and set the 25-26 property tax request as follows. $30,188,107 for the general fund, $774,054 for the special building fund, $11,074,216 for the bond fund, and $0 for the qualified capital purpose undertaking fund. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, you call the roll, please. Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Kara? Yes. Joe?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Allison? Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Before you move on, I just want to make sure and thank Michael Tice for all that he did through the course of this, our coordinator of business services. He puts together the NDE budget. He's the one answering so many questions throughout the course of it. This is not like in the last month we've been doing this. We've been doing this for 11 months. We've already started on next year's. And so tons of work goes into both the NDE side and the actual side, making sure that we constantly are aware of what we're doing fiscally. So I just want to make sure and publicly thank him for all of his work on this as well.
All right, I think our last item of new business this evening relates to the second high school. We are going to discuss, consider, and take action on bid contracts for the second high school project. And we have folks from Houseman here to address any questions we might have. I'll let you take it from here.
Absolutely. So last Tuesday on the 9th, or excuse me, a couple Tuesdays ago on the 9th, we received bids from several general contractors for 8 different bid packages. And so this has a lot to do with foundations and kind of the initial work that's going to take place on the high school. A reminder, we're kind of chunking out these early bid packages to keep the project moving. I believe the next one will be the largest portion of the project. And so this would be more of the steel and ground improvements and foundations to keep us going through the winter here. And so we had 8 of those. The total estimated budget for these 8 packages, pre-construction was $10,588,896, so basically $10.6 million. The recommendations for the bid packages are going to be over that. On the front end, we do believe that we're going to have some savings on later bid packages that are going to come in. But this one is going to be slightly over, or it is going to be over budget from what we anticipated. So I'm just going to kind of work through each of these. Stop me at any time if you got any questions. But the first one is for ground improvement. The recommendations for CNC at $484,100. Reinforced steels for DW Steel at $439,336. I'd just like to note that this was not exactly, it wasn't the low bidder, it's slightly more than what the low bid was. The reason for that is a recommendation from Hausman because their contract better matched the scope. It had about 30,000 pounds of steel, I think it's pounds of steel, and so the belief was that it better matched the scope, which will reduce the likelihood of a change order later on. And so they felt like maybe it was better to pay more here on the front end than on the back end with a change order. So that's the recommendation for that one. In the foundations is TR Construction, or just under 2.2 million. The structural miscellaneous steel is Midwest for just over 3.4 million. The elevators is KONE, I don't know if you call themselves Coney or what, for 267,000. The hollow core, the recommendation is for core slab. Again, this is not the low bidder. The reason for that recommendation is because they were the only bidder that had the required schedule starting work on February 1st. Nobody else was able to meet that time frame. And so if we approved the ones above them, it would delay our construction schedule by 2 to 4 months, depending on which one that we'd select. And so that's why that's the recommended one as well. Site utilities would be Titan for just under 2.2 million, and then geothermal would be K2 for just under 2 million. So that comes in on September 9th. Hausman goes to work. They make sure all of the bids for each of the contractors match each other, make sure that they're exactly what was in the scope of what was asked for. And so they did all that. We had discussions late last week, talked about the bid amounts, the contractor experiences, the vendor's ability to complete the project, the timelines, what was included within their bids. Typically, we had taken that to the Building and Finance Committee. We were not able to just based on the time frame. We didn't get this done until Friday, and so here we are. With that, we do feel like we've vetted it internally well. You heard the recommendations for the different contractors. The total of all these bids is just under 11.5 million, and so it is about $900,000 over the pre-construction budget on these items. Again, we believe we're going to make that up in other areas. Those haven't been bid out yet. We haven't seen those come in, but that's about 1% of the project. We feel like we're going to make that up in other areas for sure. And we still anticipate the total project cost exactly what we told the public it would be, the 124.6 million. So not exactly perfectly ideal news, but we're feeling pretty confident we're still going to get to what we said we'd get to. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions. Oh, sorry, last piece of information. After this bid package, we're about 20% done. The next bid package will be roughly get us to about 90% done. So that's the big one where it's a huge part of it. DLR has already provided the full drawings, and so now they're able to take it out to bid completely. I think we'll be doing that at the end of September, early October. Once those come in, we'll need some time to kind of work through the same process. We'll be back with, in the meantime, Hausman will provide a GMP at the beginning of October as well, so we'll know the final cost of the project.
That's when?
Early October, I believe, is the
GMP,
yeah, GMP, early October. So that'll come to you at the board meeting. That's when they say this is our guaranteed maximum price. We know what it'll be. We feel confident in that. It's before actually the final bids come in, but they'll feel more confident because they have 100% of the drawings to work through.
Questions?
Yeah, I think the glaring question, right, would be the original bid at the structural and miscellaneous steel of it's almost $1 million off or over $1 million, 1.1 million over budget.
Yeah, so our estimating team we'll reach out to the market and talk to some of these suppliers to get preliminary numbers for the early estimates. This was a big bust on some of these ends from those early numbers, so we made Aaron aware of that right off the bat. This is about $1 million plus over budget, so unfortunate circumstance, like you mentioned, we will make it up through the BE process or the early budgeting things.
Is it just the pricing or something that's like quantity?
Because an interpretation of what we call miscellaneous steel for specific connections and detailing, which just wasn't included in the original number.
So my understanding at a high level is during pre-construction on the miscellaneous steel, you kind of have an idea of what it's going to look like. Then you get the drawings and you find out the exact amount of stainless steel and other fabrication that's needed, which can cause quite the change. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions from the board? All right, there is a proposed motion.
I move to award the bid contracts to CNC Foundations for $484,100, Drake Williams Steel for $439,336, TR Construction for $2,161,626, Midwest Steel Supply for $3,450,350, Coney Elevator for $267,064, Core Slab Structures for $520,852, Titan for $2,174,374, and K2 Construction for $1,995,800 for the second high school project.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Any further questions or comments? All right, would you call the roll, please?
Allison?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you both for being here. Questions?
Thank you. Yes.
All right, that brings us to our last item, which is just our general reminders. Our next meeting is October 13th. That's our regular board meeting for the month at 6 o'clock here in the district office. And we'll have a curriculum and Americanism committee meeting on the 13th at 5 p.m. And then for board members that are interested in the NASB area membership meeting dates, there's a meeting here in Fremont on the 24th of September. If you're interested, please let Jody know. All right, that brings us to our last item, which is adjournment. So I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jody, please call the roll.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes. Motion passes for adjournment.
Thank you.
Students, if you have papers to sign, feel free to come up. We're happy to